Hello and welcome to Inside Edition to discuss national, regional and international issues in depth. Since its inception in 1939, the Bahrain Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the BCCI, played a prominent role in shaping the national economy of Bahrain and creating a vigorous private sector. It has kept abreast of the fast-paced economic and social developments and consolidated its efforts to stimulate the growth and expansion of the private sector and empower its role in the economic development of the country alongside the public sector. With various challenges and constant development, the Bahrain Chamber of Commerce and Industry is proceeding in the path of success and continues its growth. With us here today in the studio, BCCI's chairman, Mr. Samir Nas, who is also the chairman of the Nas Group and has been involved with the BCCI's committees and board of directors since he graduated from college in the US back in 1980. Hello and welcome back. Hello, Mr. Samir Nas. Thank you very much for joining us today in the studio of Inside Edition.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Sir, we have so much to talk about during the show, and one of the really main things that we want to focus on, because of also the time that we are in here at the end of the year, usually there are a lot of exhibitions, conferences, a lot of last-minute deals that are being made for the next upcoming financial year.
Absolutely.
I really want to ask you, business has always been a great contributor to Bahrain's economy, whether it was the public sector or it was the private sector.
Yes.
And the comprehensive development of the nation led to the establishment of the Bahrain Chamber of Commerce and Industry. What can you tell us about the importance as well as the Chamber's main missions in the role of the kingdom's economy?
At the onset of the Chamber of Commerce in 1939, since its establishment, the BCCI played a major role. In those days, there was the leaders, the rulers of the country, and the second arm of decision making and advisors to the rulers were the business community. Okay. We didn't have parliaments then. We didn't have shura councils, but the business community played a big role in policy making, legislation, and also the drive of the economy. Now, I mean, with the new set of parliament being there and the shura councils, the role of the business community was a little bit minimized, you could say. But now, I mean, the BCCI is celebrating this year its 80th anniversary, which is, it's considered almost, I think, the second or third oldest chamber of commerce in the MENA region. That, having said that, its role representing the business community is very important, and it's vital, and it represents the voice of the business community, and decision making by the executive arm of the country to put their voice and recommendations regarding policies concerning economic issues.
Yes. Well, the BCCI actually has several permanent committees.
Absolutely,
and these committees are basically established in order to look or have a kind of broader view of what the country needs and what needs to be developed. So what can you tell us about the performance and how they cooperate with each other to serve the mutual aspirations of the kingdom and as well the business people that are
I see these committees, in the past there used to be 24 committees representing different sectors and the spectrum of businesses in the country. But then we have restructured that and reduced those committees to 10 to come in line with the international standards of sector committees. In the past, we used to even have committees for hairdressers.
Okay, there you go.
So what we did, we try to
minimize them.
Minimize the representation and issues for the different business sectors could be represented in case there is a problem to be addressed and studied and discussed. We create what you call is a temporary committee until the issue is sorted out, and then
it's dissolved.
But then there are common issues and common problems with all sector across the board. The 10 committees that we have, they represent industries, food sectors, retail, industrial, real estate, the whole spectrum of that. But how they coordinate between each other, we have a steering committee that all the chairmen of these committees are board members in that committee.
All right, okay.
And headed by a board member in the Chamber of Commerce, in the BCCI. And that is the link between, they cross information, they exchange data, and they make discuss common problems to be addressed to the board of directors, and then from there we create policy for dialogue with the executive body, which is the government, you could say.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
When it comes to the business world in Bahrain, Bahrain is known to be a business hub.
Yes.
Not only because of the diversity of our business society, but the diversity is pretty much a big part of it, as well as the fact that Bahrain has a very lenient business area or workplace. So what can you tell us about the ease for investors from outside that want to invest not just in Bahrain but in the GCC, and they choose Bahrain always as a headquarters?
Yes. We always try to promote Bahrain to be the gateway for the Gulf.
Yes.
And the infrastructure that's set up in Bahrain in terms of ease of living of expat community and the cosmopolitan nature of the country of Bahrain, and at the same time the Bahraini people are they can interact with the expat community very easily.
Yes.
That, I think, creates a positive environment for foreign companies to come to set base here and reside their families here and then commute in the region.
Yes.
Looking at the easing of investments and establishment of companies here, it's a very what you call it delicate balance.
Yes.
Whereby protecting the local market and the local businessmen, and at the same time the local economy, and at the same time adding to the economy.
Yes.
We need to create a positive impact to the economy of Bahrain. The whole objective is to create jobs by which is called FDI, foreign direct investments. Foreign direct investment is welcome, and also offshore companies are welcome, as long as they can add value to the economy. And that's what we're looking at. And there is a lot of easing of policies and legislation. But here we are at a stage of review of this, whereby I think it's important that we look at assessing the last few years of what has been done regarding FDI policies and attraction of investment, as long as it adds value. Because unfortunately we see, as BCCI, that there is unfortunately abuse of the policies.
Yes, yes.
By people that are not, we don't feel that they can add value to the economy.
Yes, understand.
Especially in certain communities, certain sectors that affect the local Bahraini businessmen, which we feel there should be some kind of an alignment that they can that can add value. Yeah.
Well, in situations like that, and the FDIs have been successful in other positions or in other parts of the Bahraini economy. And usually just the BCCI always puts in or integrates new laws that put these boundaries and put things back into place. And these are interacted also with the promulgations of the new laws that are also interacted by the government itself. So my question to you is, in order to fix a problem like that, how do you value the government's support to the promulgated laws, as well as basically fixing issues where you see this is affecting the economy?
Absolutely. I mean, BCCI doesn't issue laws or regulations. Normally, we put recommendations,
yes,
and suggestions to the government when we see things that can go wrong,
yes,
and that it's going against the interests of the economy of
yes,
the country. We highlight it. We sometimes, and if there are any issues, we do have a research and studies department within the BCCI, and we study each issue in research, and we look at the numbers and the effect, and based on that we in dialogue and cooperation and meetings with the government.
yeah,
It's a partnership. We have created a partnership environment between us and the government,
yeah,
and the decision makers in the government.
yeah,
On that, this is the basis how we discuss things.
yeah,
And sometimes a lot of our members, by the way, the BCCI, ever since I think 2012, or I think a few years back, the membership of BCCI by the businessmen is compulsory.
okay,
So we represent almost each and every businessman in
yes,
Bahrain.
yes,
We have almost 36,000 members
wow,
in BCCI. So when we talk, and we talk businessmen through BCCI to the legislative body,
yes,
we are talking the whole business community.
you're representing everybody.
So what we do, we try to link our base with us, and we are the voice to the government. So we do surveys, we do questionnaires through media, through internet, through workshops for any issues that arises, and through the studies, and we come to recommendation and pass it through.
Yeah,
So this is the mechanism on how we work,
yeah,
or we try to. We try
yes,
to maximize reaching our base.
yes.
Yeah.
And these are also the mechanisms that are used in order to serve the chamber's goals at the end of the day, and the chamber is representing the business community.
Absolutely, by law. I mean, the BCCI, for the first time, there is a law that has been established by, and the one of the clauses of its objectives of BCCI is to represent the business community with the government,
Yeah,
in dialogue, which is, I think, it's the main backbone thing of our responsibility, you could say.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Nas, sustainable development has
Yes.
been on the top of the agendas of every single entity in the world, and also in Bahrain. The 2030 vision of Bahrain has worked a lot towards sustainable development, even in the business sector.
Yes.
What can you tell us about the initiatives that are being prepared by the BCCI in order to integrate the idea or the concepts of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals?
2030 vision, of course, the business community or the private sector as such is at the upfront of the vision.
Yeah.
And the objective of the 2030 is to make the private sector the main driver of the economy, of the economic of Bahrain. Now, there were a lot of issues and a lot of regulations and laws that had been established to gear toward that. Now, sustainable economy require, a mutual or a cooperative discussion between. There is a huge dialogue between us and the EDB Economic Development Board, as BCCI Economic Development Board, and the government to look at ways and identifying sustainable economic growth by way of service economies or industrial economies. We try to identify areas of businesses that does also reduce the reliance on fossil fuel industries. Or, sustainability, and also creating of decent Bahraini jobs, a business model that can create that, basically, which is, I think, for us is the most important. Our youth is always in the top of the requirement, and creating sustainable economy by selecting the type of businesses that has continuity, and at the same time doesn't have a lot of pressure on eating up our resources.
Understood. So basically, we do, Bahrain being an oil country, but Bahrain also has a very huge tourism sector, and a lot of its economic development is not based on the gas and oil industry anymore, as it was.
But we are very greedy. We feel that this is not enough.
Yes, of course.
We think that the tourism industry or the sector has not been really utilized to the maximum. I think there is a huge room, a big room to expand in there, and a lot of opportunities that are there. And the fault is at the business community. I feel the business community, they can do better. To be the driver of the economy, we should take the initiative. But at the same time, the legislations and laws and regulation has to be aligned to help the business community to do that.
I actually, the way I see it is, it's not really greed as much as it is that the Bahraini business community is an innovator within the GCC when it comes to coming up with these new sustainable business ideas. Now, being here or living here in Bahrain, I see a lot of diversity when it comes to even feasibility studies or research studies of the market of what is needed within the sustainability sector. And we see a rise in the number of sustainable services, as you said, as well as the industries, but still the industries are more focused on importing from the outside.
Trading and representing people, becomes distributor to sell more products and these sorts of things.
Although we have them here.
Well, I think there is a lot of ideas that we have on the table that we are studying in the BCCI and in discussion with the government and decision, the legislative body and the executive body there. There are ideas like, as you said, we call the tourism education, for example, is a huge potential to create colleges, schools for the region in Bahrain. Bahrain can be an education hub. There's huge opportunity there, which I think we are doing studies and proposals to be put forward to look at areas and create a roadmap on how we can develop that. Also, the medical industry, the medical tourism or hospital tourism, you could call it. There is also potential there. But there are also the infrastructure that has to be established so we could meet this. That require huge cooperation by different sectors, different departments, government, private sector, as well as the parliament, to go towards that, basically.
We still have a lot to cover. Stay tuned after this short break. Welcome back. We will continue our discussions with the Chamber of Commerce and Industry Chairman, Mr. Samir Nas. Before the break, we were talking a lot about sustainable development and how the sustainable development affects the way we look at business and how we do business nowadays. It's also really important to focus on the point that sustainable development goals are a global concept. It's not just in Bahrain or the GCC community. This is globally 17 rules or points that the whole world wants to achieve, not for us, literally not for this generation, but for the future generation that we're trying to preserve and save and make a home for. What can you tell us about the contribution and how does the business sector fit into supporting the global SDGs?
You see, I'll tell you, I mean, sustainable economy is every country's wish. And it's huge competition between countries. Everybody, you see their objective and their strategies and visions based on this. So it depends also how you come in, and the innovation and creativity of the business community, the successful country that can come forward with this. Now, studies and cooperations that are, you see, there is data and innovation of the people of Bahrain can do that a little bit of difference. It's not just the business community, it's the whole society, the population as a whole, collectively. We are very hopeful with our youngsters. The youth is our assets.
It is.
But then you have to show the roadmap for them, and we have to create the right ground and for them to take the baton, they call it. So what we see in our relationship regarding research and sustainabilities and all this, there is unfortunately, not in Bahrain, but in the region, lack of data, lack of research and development, or research and studies to identify where we can, where our faults are and where we could improve and how we can go forward. This is where in BCCI today we are adamant that we want to create improve our studies, research and studies department. And we're doing that with the United Nations, UNIDO. There is a huge cooperation with them to look at developing and improving that research and studies department by making it upgraded. And our objective is basically to measure and get more micro data on performances, basically performance indicators. For the different sectors. We're not talking about the country's performance indicator, but actual micro indicator performance of each and every sectors in terms of employment, in terms of sales, in terms of, these are main tools for our youngsters and youth businessmen, especially SMEs, to identify. I mean, imagine, any management graduate that goes into business or whatever it is, kind of sectors he wants, without these tools he cannot make decisions. He is going to do management in the old-fashioned ways. You need the data, actual data, or at least approximate data, not maybe accurate, but approximately, for him to create proper decision making. So we feel through research and studies, by micro studies for indicators of performances for these businesses, it will help a lot in doing that. we feel, that that we are, there is a lot of challenges in the country.
Yeah.
The whole world is going towards online shopping, for example.
Yes, true.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, people are talking about there's 20% growth of online shopping every year.
True.
And it's tremendous. I think we're gonna see a time whereby shopping malls will be empty.
Yeah, it might very well be.
Yeah,
and
I
I
mean,
think it's also because of the fast-paced work world we have. We don't have time to do anything else except for work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that gives you an indicator, and the habit. Even our youngsters, the Bahraini youngsters, and I think across the Gulf, they are used to online shopping already. The habit of that is being done.
Yeah.
So we as business community have to think outside the box. We have to shape ourselves for a new way of doing business.
Yeah, yeah.
I think shopping malls will be, after a few years, will be a thing of the past.
Yeah.
From what I understand, I mean, in the United States, a lot of big department stores are closing down because of the online shopping and all that stuff.
Yes.
So we should a little bit, be aware of this and try to re-establish ourselves.
Yeah.
The business communities have to be realize that business is not as usual.
Yeah, true.
There are a lot of changes going globally, and the wave is coming to us.
Yeah.
And that's why we try to create awareness by creating a lot of conferences, and one of the main strategy Economic Development Board is looking at, and the government. There is a huge desire to create Bahrain to become also a hub for the fourth industrial revolution.
Yes.
In the IT, blockchain,
Yes.
fintech, and I think we have to work with that, and I think this is an important subject for the next, you say, century of Bahrain businesses.
Exactly. Bahrain has the infrastructure for that, very much so.
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, when you said before about having more focus on the tourism industry and so on, when we talk about the tourism industry, a lot of people think, okay, traveling to Bahrain and having a vacation there. There's also internal tourism. So when you look at like the shopping malls, as we mentioned, they have always been dubbed as the place you go for shopping, but never really where you go to have a day out with a family or to have some kind of entertainment. So when you want to restructure it or rethink it, these are exactly the points we want the new generation to think of. How can you restructure these obsolete or soon to be obsolete institutions into something that the new generation will want to go to or will want to be a part of?
Absolutely. I mean, you notice now a lot of the way that these shopping malls that are being designed is always big portion of it there's for entertainments.
Yeah, and restaurants, all.
And restaurants.
Yeah.
And the only way, I mean, I hardly go shopping myself. Whenever I go shopping, I hardly see people carrying shopping bags. So you notice that a lot of them, they're just going there for the date, having a meal maybe, or taking the kids for an outing. It became a social thing, more than the buying to me.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, it is a magnet. Until now, the real thing, I mean, going shopping is also some, online shopping is too automated sometimes. Now I'm talking about the next spectrum.
Yeah.
Too
invasive.
Yeah, but the thing that you do, I mean, to go shopping is the fun of going there, looking at the, searching and all this, touching the material and all that you will not do, cannot go away, but you still have it, but it's not going to be as much as it should be, what's going to be in the future.
Yes. You know, sir, I think they should do some kind of an awareness campaign for people that go online shopping, that they actually lose more money because it's more difficult to return the items at that point.
So
they just put it aside. They're like, okay, okay, I'll never order
well,
from
it
here
happened
again.
to me. Oh, my wife did it, by the way.
There you go. I just don't
Yes.
use it. There you go. Well, in order to make all of these plans and plan for the future and really diversify Bahrain's business economy and how it will support the Bahraini economy, how the business Chamber of Commerce will support the economy, a lot of research, as you said, comes into this. And part of this research is also getting the feedback and ideas from the international community, the regional community. And that is done through conferences. And we know very soon we're going to have the 18th Arab Businessmen and Investors Conference in Manama.
Yes.
Specifically on the 11th and the 13th, until the 13th of November. We're going to maybe put the website for people that want to know more about it. What can you tell us about the importance of holding such conferences to our businesses and the businesses around us?
It's huge. It's huge. I think we in the Arab world, by the way, the BCCI is a member in the Bahrain, in the Arab Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
The Arab Chamber of Commerce represent about 22 countries. We have 22 chairmen and delegates together coming in that conference.
Yeah.
We are hosting this under the patronage of His Majesty the King Hamad.
Yeah.
And the subject for this conference is huge. I think it's the fourth industrial revolution, and we feel in BCCI that it is a huge subject for the Arab world, for us to come updated or catch up with what we have not reached yet with the rest of the world. So we feel this is a platform to invite people from all over the world to talk about the subject, and also corporations in the industry to shake hands with the business investors, the Arab business and the Bahraini businesses, and also government representatives from the GCC and are going to be there, and also legislative bodies will be there. It's going to be a platform for dialogue and to look at the way forward. For us, this kind of conference is the putting of the seed of creating the discussion and looking at how we could create the infrastructure for the Arab world. We have the youth percentage in the Arab world of the countries is one of the highest, and I think they are more geared towards the IT and automation and other. There are industries are being done by robots, manufacturers, you know, the automation in almost every field and sector, automation is there. And we would like our youth and our future to go towards that and catch up with the rest of the world. So we feel that this is a platform whereby the decision maker, governments can meet and discuss the matter and come up with recommendations. And at the same time, we believe that this is putting the seed to grow business.
That's a big plan, and I'm sure that a conference like that is going to actually make a difference within the upcoming plans that the business community in Bahrain has.
Absolutely.
We're almost at the end of our show. I'd just like to ask you at the end, what are the future plans and upcoming projects prepared by the BCCI?
Well, there is a lot of issues, a lot of things that we are planning right now. There is, I think, next year, I think we are hosting the World Women Association. We have a lot of studies and recommendations that can affect the economy in the country. That's going to be put up to the government, and we are in dialogue with them, looking at ways how we can stimulate the economy more. And to me, businesses and issues and legislation is a very fluid thing. It keeps continuing. You know, we have to be on the lookout on things that can, you know, keep the wheel running.
Yes.
So
Our developers.
the BCCI would never stop looking at areas.
Yeah.
There is a huge dialogue now between us and the government regarding review of LMRA.
Yes.
The business community are a little bit, there is big dialogue today regarding the viability of so many legislations.
Yes. Yes.
And we're listening to them. And the decision makers and the government are also listening.
Yes.
So we are in dialogue and looking at common grounds for the betterment of Bahrain, inshallah.
Inshallah. It's a constant process, and we wish you all the luck and success.
Thank you
inshallah.
very much.
Thank you very much for being with us today and answering all of our questions.
Most welcome.
And we would also like to thank you, dear viewers, for watching, and see you next week in another episode of Inside Edition.